issues facing the youth today in the Western world and throughout the globe. We are honored to be joined today by Maulana Raza Hussain Zaidi from the Toronto GTA area. Assalamu alaikum, Maulana. Thank you very much for once again joining us for this
Walaikum
session.
assalam wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much.
Maulana, today we will be discussing the issues surrounding Islamophobia and discrimination. As society seems to be getting more and more polarized and decreasingly tolerant to other cultures, we see social maladies such as Islamophobia on the rise. Many of us have experienced Islamophobia either outright or subtle. So, what is the Islamic perspective on being bullied or picked on for being Muslim? How should we react to this? How do we handle this?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين إنه خير ناصر ومعين وصلى الله على سيدنا ومولانا بالقاسم محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وعجل فرجه. Once we are targeted, the reason is very few people know anything about Shia Islam, about the Shias. And it's very unfortunate that when people think about Islam or Muslims, they just see them through one sort of eyeglasses that they have made to see Islam. When they hear, terrorism going on in the name of Islam, they think that all Muslims are like that. Almost all Muslims are, supportive of this ideology that that basically is to force people into believing what they believe, which is typically against Islam, against the spirit of Islam, because it's there's a verse in the Quran which says La ikraha fid din. There is no compulsion in religion. Everybody is free to choose what they think is right, if it's regarding their religion or anything else. They have the right to choose any path that they want. Lakum dinakum waliya din. Our religion is for us and your religion is for you. So we believe in that and we practice our religion in that manner. As Shia Muslims, we have suffered throughout the world. We see, our background is from Pakistan. What we see in Pakistan every other day. Like, for example, just about a few days ago, we witnessed one of the most horrific incidents in the history of Pakistan, where innocent people were killed just because they were Shias. So we know the pain. We have that feeling of being targeted, especially where we live in Pakistan, or even once we come to Canada. But here, I feel it's a little different. In Pakistan, when you're there, you see people are not allowed to practice their religion, practice Shiism in the way that they should be. It's their right. But in Canada, we are free to do so, which is a bit different. But this is what I want to say. People do not know about the Shia Muslims. Many people, when they think about Muslims, they just brand them as just one. They think it's just one religion, and that's not the case. Islam has got many sects, like Christians have got many sects. The mainstream are, like, for example, Roman Catholics and Protestants, and then there's so many hundreds and hundreds of sects that even the Christians might not have heard about them. So in Islam, there are two main sects: Sunnis and Shia. Sunnis are a majority and Shias are a minority. But whatever any Muslim in the name of Islam does, unfortunately, people say that, well, this is what the Muslims are doing and that's what Islam is all about. On the other hand, I'm not saying that all Sunnis are like that. There are very few people who believe in such an ideology, like terrorism, and like Daesh and Al Qaeda and all of those ideologies. Well, we should not say that all Muslims are like that. If all Muslims were terrorists, you can imagine we have at least 1.5 billion Muslims in the world. So if you have 1.5 billion terrorists, I think everybody should have been dead by now.
There wouldn't be much of a world left. That's true.
Much, yeah, exactly. And that's basically what it is. So I mean, how should we react? That's what your question was. I think we need to bring awareness and we need to let people know what we believe in. And we're non-violent. Basically, Shias do not believe in violence. If you look at Karbala, Karbala is a prime example in this case. We believe in Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Imam Hussain alayhi salam, when people say there was a battle, it was not a battle. Imam Hussain alayhi salam took his women and children along with him. He all along he used to say, like, I do not want to get into a fight with you people, but what you ask from me, I cannot give it to you. You ask for me to submit to all of the ideologies of Banu Umayyah and pay allegiance on the hands of Yazid, who is a violent kind of a king and a brutal king who has massacred lots of people, and he believes in doing that, right? Even in the tenure of his father Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, he led some certain wars, and he has killed so many people, and now he's sitting on the throne claiming to be the leader of the Muslims and declaring that there was no Islam and nothing of that sort. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam, because he was the grandson of the Prophet, and the whole ummah, Muslim ummah, like Allama Maududi says in his book, Khilafat Malukiyat, that the whole world of the Muslim world, their eyes were upon Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Had he paid allegiance on the hands of Yazid, Islam would have perished. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam is a universal figure who gave us our own ideology, our own identity as Shias. We do not believe in violence, but we stand for what's right, and we will not submit to anything that's forced upon us when it's something that should not be done. We will do what's right, even if we are forced to, like, we're given a choice that we will kill you, otherwise do the bad stuff. We will refuse to do the bad stuff. We will refuse to go on the evil path, and we will choose the righteous one, and we will not do it. And when I say we will not do it, I do not mean that we will be violent. It's just that whatever comes in the way, we will accept it. We will be patient, but we will not leave our path. So that's the way we should deal with it. And if even when we see this Islamophobia, when we see people react in a violent manner, well, in that way, I think what we should do is, we do not believe in just sitting and accepting that violence. I think there are laws in wherever we are, and I think we should bring the awareness. The first thing that you should do is, like, if you face such kind of a thing in Canada, you've got a number which is 911. Ask for help. If you see someone is acting in violence, I mean, if somebody is becoming violent and he's doing something against you, if you need help, you should ask for that help, and you will get that help. I think, well, that's the way I think we should deal with it.
Thank you, Maulana. Yes, you're absolutely right. I think the first and foremost thing is obviously your personal safety. And if you feel that your personal safety is threatened, then absolutely you need to report it immediately. That would be the first step. And then, as you mentioned, bringing awareness to the conversations that we have, finding common ground, because obviously, as Mullah Ali said, that we are either brothers in Islam or equals in humanity. And Islam obviously is a religion of human values, of human morals, and there's common ground that we can find across all religions with people of all different faiths, even people with no faith. And it's important to ensure that our discussions, when we are faced with Islamophobic comments or subtle Islamophobic references, is to find that commonality, to raise that awareness. And obviously, if there's a threat or a perceived threat, whether it's at your workplace or at school or even at home, the first thing to do is obviously to report it. Mana, we're not in a unique situation in that we face this discrimination. We do get picked on from time to time in various different situations and gatherings, whether it's at work or at school. And it's not unique because during the advent of Islam, there was a minority of Muslims in the Arabian world, in specifically around Mecca and Medina, and they faced a lot of Islamophobia and discrimination at that time, from day one of the Holy Prophet's propagation of the deen of Islam. How did the early Muslims deal with the discrimination that they faced at that time? What sort of strategies did they employ? How did they organize themselves?
Well, in early Islamic era, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought the message of Allah before everyone, and he said, "I'm the prophet of God, and I've brought a book called Quran, and you should worship just one Allah and stop worshiping idols." There was a lot of resistance, and there was a reaction which was so violent. The followers of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam were massacred and killed until the time when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam migrated from Mecca to Medina with all of his companions, all of his ashab, and his family. But then the people who were left, or the people who had to travel for some reason to Mecca from Medina, were persecuted. I'm sorry, and killed just because they were Muslims, because they believed differently, and nobody deserved to die just because they believed differently. But it happened. So what did Rasulullah do? Rasulullah brought awareness. That's what he did. We see that when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after he entered Makkah with his huge army, and he was victorious, and there was no match. The kuffar, the mushrikeen of Makkah could not resist and could not fight, because there were hundreds and millions of Muslims versus a few of them left in Makkah. So what did Rasulullah do when he had the power? He still brought more awareness. How did all of these millions and millions of people who converted to Islam, how did they convert to Islam? Because Rasulullah brought awareness. He believed in non-violence. It is said that it is a historical fact that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam never picked up a sword. He never fought. So whatever Islamic battles that everybody knows about, people think that Islam is a violent religion. These wars, these battles were enforced upon the Muslims, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in all of the battles defended Muslims and Islam. Sometimes when he knew, like, very rarely that people are going to attack them, and he had the information that people are going to attack them, then he would do something about it. That's about in a few of the wars that took place. So that was also in self-defense. So it was never offensive. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam never believed in that. So that just stands to prove he was not non-violence. And the fact that when there were millions of people entering Makkah victoriously, and now there are hundreds and hundreds of people who had massacred the Muslims, the followers of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and here they are. They're coming with Rasulullah victorious, and they see their enemies. And when they're face to face, Rasulullah says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I have given refuge to each and every individual in Makkah. Nobody has the right to kill any person in Makkah only because they believe differently. If he's a kafir or whatever they believe in, they will not be killed. Me, Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has given them a message of peace. So when he had the power to kill these people, he forgave them. And he said, when all of these people, Abu Sufyan and all of those people gathered and came in right in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they knew what they had done in the past, and they were scared, and they knew that if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam only gives one signal, these guys would be massacred and they would be dead in a second. But here is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam standing before them, and when they come and they ask for forgiveness, and they say, well, you are kind, and your brother Ali ibn Abi Talib is kind. You are Kareem, and your brother is Kareem. So will you forgive us, because you are so kind and merciful? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replies, Antumut tuluqa, you're free to go. I'll let you go. So Rasulullah, in a way, did not forgive them, but he just said that we're not going to punish you. So just go and do what you want to do, and we won't do anything against you. But he did not say that, Abu Sufyan, I have forgiven you. Antum tuluqa. And that is the sentence that Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam is known to say to Yazid when he was imprisoned and brought to Sham, Syria, after his father Imam Hussain alayhi salam was killed on the sands of Karbala. And here he is standing right before Yazid ibn Muawiyah in chains and shackles, and it looks straight into his eyes and it says, Yabna tuluqa, you are the ones who was the son of the slaves who were freed by my ancestor. This was the meaning of Antum Yabna tuluqa, Ya ibn tuluqa. So Yabna tuluqa, he says that to Yazid. So this is the ideology that we have been following until today, that when you are in power, you do not become violent just because you're in power. But we see that that is not the case in many instances when when our brothers in faith, not in faith, well, in different sects of Islam, when they came into power, you see that there's lots of massacres and lots of things, like the whole history of Banu Umayyah and Banu Abbas, and later on as well. So when they found Shias, the Shias would be killed, the followers of Ahlul Bayt would be killed. But then you had, like the Fatimis, when they ruled, tell me which Sunni was killed because he was just a Sunni. Not one. So we don't believe in those things. We don't believe in violence. So this is something that has been taught to us by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Ahlul Bayt, and we're still following that until today.
The example you gave of the conquest of Mecca is an excellent example of the peaceful nature of the Holy Prophet and of Islam, and the tolerance and the forgiveness. And I think that when we talk about raising awareness amongst people, when we do come across situations where we are bullied or picked on due to our faith, it's important to cite these types of examples. And then the second point you mentioned about specifically us being followers of the Ahlul Bayt, the Shia of the Ahlul Bayt. I think it's important to make that differentiation, not in terms of separating us from the body of the Muslim Ummah, but in terms of acknowledging and making aware people of the fact that we have had a slightly different experience historically. We've always been the victims of terrorism, the victims of bullying, the victims of oppression. Therefore, we do not support them. And then following that up with snippets of the events of Karbala, leading up to Karbala, and what happened in Karbala, and the conduct of Imam Hussain alayhi salam in Karbala. I think these are excellent examples that would really touch the heart and the rational thought centers of these people who do pick on us and do label us with Islamophobic slurs. Jazakallah Maulana, thank you for that. Another thought that occurred to me, as well as many of us, especially the younger ones, we play games online, Call of Duty, Fortnite, et cetera, Minecraft, and so on and so forth. And in these games, from time to time, we are in situations where we're hunting people or we're in a battle. And it occurred to me that if we, even in our online personas, our online avatars, our online life, if we reflect the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, I think that helps us to raise that awareness as well, because first and foremost is our conduct. We're judged based on how we react. So if we're always talking about violence, if we're always saying, oh yeah, I'm going to kill that guy, and reacting like that, then obviously we're kind of feeding into this narrative that Western media has created about what a typical Muslim is like. So, for example, when you're playing Call of Duty and you've come up against an opponent who's now running away from you, remember the example of Imam Ali alayhi salam in battle. He never chased anybody who ran away from him. And you can reflect that even in your online battles. It sounds funny, but again, it's small things like this that acclimatize yourself, your own soul, to that peaceful way of life that Islam of the Ahlul Bayt teaches and propagates to us. Jazakallah Maulana. So what guidelines, in addition to what you've already shared, can you share with us for dealing with specifically bullies or people at work, whether they're bullies at work, whether at school? How should we conduct ourselves? Should we, for example, fight back. So if I get somebody who says, "Oh, you Muslims are all terrorists," or insinuates that in a conversation, should we just hit them back? Well, you know what? Christians were terrorists as well in the Crusades and the NRA and or sorry, the IRA, et cetera, et cetera. Or should we just patiently suffer through these situations? Should we shy away from such situations, or should we actively participate and make sure that we are heard and that our stories are told in these situations? What do you recommend?
Well, I think nobody in his senses would say that we should just sit and suffer whatever is brought upon us. I think that's not the way to deal with it. The first step is like to identify the person who's doing it and the reason behind why he's doing it. One of the reasons might be because sometimes there's so much of the propaganda that goes on against the Muslims and Islam, and they say, well, Muslims are like that. You just label them, give the dog a bad name, and hang it. So if you just find that if there's a person before you who would never be able to be understand your logic or be convinced that you are not a terrorist, you are a peaceful Muslim, a practicing Shia Muslim, you identify as a non-violent, peaceful, practicing Shia Muslim, and we do not support violence. The thing that you have in your mind that all Muslims are terrorists is not true. If you tell them, and I'm sure many of them do realize that, but still they want to pick on you, maybe because of the color of your skin, maybe because you look differently, because of your your cultural background, because of your religion, and so many other things. So the guy just doesn't like you, and he's gonna pick on you, and no matter what, even though he knows, he is convinced by your arguments and your logic. First, you explain to him that, look, why are you doing that? Why are you targeting me? Why are you saying that? I mean, really, I mean, if you're in school or college or in a workplace, I mean, why are you doing this? You need to ask that question. So sometimes the situation is really different. Like, for example, you don't have much time to just sit and argue or like explain your point of view and explain that you're not like one of them and stuff like that. That is not the case. If that's not the case, well, then you should ask for help. It just depends on situation to situation. If you think that it's someone who's your friend and acts differently with you and picks on you just because you're a Muslim, I think you should sit down with that person and talk to him. And before reacting, before going and making a complaint against him or doing anything of that sort, first you should bring awareness. You should educate them. You should tell them that we are Shia Muslims, or even Sunni Muslims. I'm sure 99% of the Sunnis are non-violent. They don't believe in violence. There's just a 1% of the Muslims who call so-called Muslims. They're not Muslims. I do not believe that they're Muslims, because I believe that in the world there are only two kinds of people: either they're Hussainis or they're Yazidis. So the Yazidis, when they support Yazid, then they say Yazid Rahmatullah. And even after Karbala, after what they know, what happened in Karbala, even then they do that. Then these kind of people, these kind of violent people with their violent ideologies, they're not Muslims. So, you should just tell them that we distance ourselves from those people. We have got nothing to do with them. And, we are the victims, like you rightly said. We as Shia Muslims have always been the victims. You guys have not been the victims. We have. We know what is being, what it means to suffer from the hands of terrorists. Every other day in Pakistan, people are being killed, and especially like people like us, like Maulanas, when we go and deliver speeches and we defend our religion, we are the prime targets, and so many Maulanas have been killed, and Zakirs have been killed in the name of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And they say, well, we are the Hussainis, and we're going to kill someone who's representing Imam Hussain alayhi salam. It's really weird, but that's what has happened always. Like, people kill others, these so-called Muslims, in the name of Islam, right? So it's really ironic. But coming back to your thing about here in Canada, I think we need to educate people and tell them that we are different. But if you feel that even after proving your stance and proving your whatever your ideology is logically, that we're just totally different from those guys, and we've been always been the victims since century, and we are minority. Those guys are a majority. So the majority also does not target us. Just 1% of that majority has always been targeting us, and we're not one of them. So in the end, if you find that there is no result, and the guy is just picking on you, and he will keep on doing what he is doing, and just ignore him, unless you feel that there's a real life threat to you, or he's gonna hurt you, or maybe if you're in the school, if you're being left out from something that you wanted to do, and like all other kids, and you've been just left out because you're a Muslim or something. It doesn't happen. I don't think it happens, but maybe rarely it might happen. But if it does, I think you need to speak out, and you should not do that. First thing you should do is, like, if you're in the school, speak to your teachers, speak to the people in your school, first of all, speak to that person. But if that doesn't happen, that does not help, speak to your teacher, speak to your parents, speak to your people who can help you. Seek help. You should not. Nobody deserves to be bullied. Nobody deserves this from anyone. Now, and I'm not just saying that Shia Muslims or Sunni Muslims or Christians or Buddhists or Hindu. No kid deserves to be bullied. He should never be bullied. And I think when he's bullied, some of the kids just sit there, and they say, well, if we complain, these people are gonna call us sissies, and they're gonna make fun of us, and they're gonna say, well, this guy, look, he complains. But we are like the real men, even though they're kids, they call themselves men, right? We are the ones who would never make a complaint. So if you're a man enough, you would have had the guts to fight with me. I think the kids should know that, it's not worth it. You should not fight.
Absolutely.
You should never become violent. You should be respectful and with the other person. But if he does not understand, and he's bullying you, then you should seek help.
Jazakallah, Maulana. Thank you. Yes, and I think also an important point is to, a lot of these instances of bullying based on religion and culture are a result of, something that they've read or seen in media. And it's very important for us to be aware of the current situations of current events, to do our in-depth research and always ask the question, who benefits from these? An example, the attack in Australia that happened a few months ago. Who benefits from these events? And then take it from that perspective, because clearly it's not Muslims or Islam that benefit from these type of events. It's the enemies that do. And if they benefit, then they have an interest in ensuring that these type of events continue. So arm yourself with knowledge and insights, and obviously be prepared to defend yourself, and then escalate, report when you find that there's a threat or potential for injury. And for the insight, reach out to our scholars. Alhamdulillah, I can speak for us here in Toronto in the GTA area. We have many, many well-learned, wise scholars such as Maulana Raza Hussain Zaidi, who is present with us here today. Thank you, Maulana, for your time today. To our Hyder TV viewers, thank you very much for joining us. Please do return to us 9:30 p.m. tomorrow Eastern Standard Time. Youth Talk right here exclusively on Hyder TV. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.